Smackdown, it was taped, therefore it was trash. But we got news and notes, so we're going to talk about the news and notes mostly, and then we'll do a quick overview of Smackdown, because I'm assuming nobody watched it, or everybody's already seen it. It was a totally pointless show, but then again, it was taped. So Smackdown from December the 20th, 2024. We got 3 news and notes that I want to discuss. 1, Smackdown is moving to 3 hours starting January the 3rd. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. These shows have been brutal, and they're 2 hours. And that includes Raw, because that would mean that Raw is going to go to 3 hours on Netflix every Monday. That doesn't sound fun. You know, it would explain why they decided to create these new championships, because they're going to start giving away more TV time. That said, I don't like the idea of 3-hour television shows anymore. I get it. Streaming services, they're like, hey, we want to maximize eyeballs on the product. 3 hours, you guys been doing it on cable. Do it here. What's the big deal? I get it. At the same time, though, that just is going to bog the show down with people nobody cares about and nobody wants to see. The point of the 2-hour show is to get to the point, to get to people and get over the stories that matter. When you have a bloated show, a whole nother hour, that just says increase match times and increase the number of people nobody cares about on the product. But I can say this. Yes, it will give the mid-carders opportunities, as the main event guys will still get their 15-minute promos. And it will increase opportunities for the mid-carders, you know, some of the girls and all that sort of stuff. Which I'm guessing is fine. At the same time, though, I'm just not a huge fan of 3-hour shows. And we don't know what kind of commercials they're going to have on Netflix. Are they going to run commercial-free? Because we know SmackDown is just going to get eaten up with commercials. That 3rd hour of wrestling television is almost 100% gobbled up by commercials, especially the main events, because usually there's at least 2 commercials before the bell even rings. So it's going to be a disaster, and I'm not really looking forward to these 3-hour Raws and 3-hour Smackdowns returning anytime soon. But I get it. It's business. Business is business. And Nick Khan has said before that Raw could be 8 hours as long as he's being paid for it. He doesn't care. And they have the talent to cover it. They have more than enough talent to cover it. That being said, you can also look that they're probably going to end up raiding NXT. They're doing this transfer portal or whatever the hell. So they're probably going to call up a bunch of people from NXT to populate the mid-card of both Raw and SmackDown, which is going to devastate the NXT show, which has been slowly but surely dragging itself out of the hole that it got put in when Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov got pulled out of the show a couple of months ago. Slowly but surely, you know, the women's division and Trick Williams and Opa Femi and all of them have been trying to pull this thing out of the hole that was created. And now they're going to put them right back in it, because they're going to start taking people out of NXT. And probably people that NXT has been building, not, you know, folks that haven't been doing much of anything. They're going to start pulling people out of NXT just to populate this mid-card, especially for these women's divisions. And it's seemingly unfair, but that's the reason why NXT exists. It exists to create more stars so that you can put them on TV. I just hope that this thing becomes better booked. I'm not a big fan of how the show has been booked lately. All right, so the second note we got is the rumor mill is saying that there's going to be a tribal chief championship between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, or after that match, there's going to be a tribal chief championship introduced, similar to that phony belt that The Rock is carrying around. And they're going to start just giving away belts for people to carry. Let's talk about it as if this is real. For starters, I don't believe this is real. But let's pretend that it is real, and that there will be a tribal chief championship. It just goes to show how much political power that Roman and all those guys have, that they're just getting fake belts made for them to carry around with. It also steps on what Kevin Owens is doing. Kevin Owens is carrying around the Winged Eagle title. So now you're going to have The Rock carrying a belt that cannot be won or lost in a match. Kevin Owens walking around with a belt that's a souvenir from his childhood. And then maybe even Roman Reigns or Solo Sikoa walking around, probably Roman Reigns, with a Tribal Chief Championship. And none of that makes sense to me. It's way too many ceremonial belts and symbolic championships. Everybody can't do it. I mean, The Rock can get away with it because he's The Rock, and The Rock can get anything over. Roman Reigns might be able to get away with it, but he's just going to look like The Rock's little brother if he's just walking around with a fake belt. And Solo Sikoa is just, he doesn't need it. I mean, come on, he's not going to win that match, so you can forget it. But here's the biggest issue, is that you don't need a belt to signify who the tribal chief is. That's what the Ulafala is for. We built up all of this mystique around the Ulafala because we recognize that the person who holds it and is wearing it is the tribal chief. Therefore, what do you need a championship belt for if you have the Ulafala? So now I'm going to say, I'm thinking that there is going to be some kind of tribal chief championship that is going to be introduced by The Rock. And it might be that belt he's walking around with. I think they're calling it the People's Championship at this point or something like that. If he decides he's going to call it the High Chief title or something, High Chief Championship, because he's High Chief Siuli, then that would be within The Rock's character. It would just be leveling up something he's already got. That doesn't make sense. But it would not add anything or devalue what Roman is doing. It would not devalue the Ulafala. It would not devalue what they got going on there. So the internet has run with this whole Tribal Chief Championship thing. There is I think an AI created belt that was floating around with the bloodline, We the Ones and all that kind of stuff. I think it was AI created, but it looks nice. If it looked like that and they were going to sell them, maybe it might be cool. But that would be the reason you would do it. If you were going to create a Tribal Chief Championship, is to create belts so Roman can make more money off merchandise, But that would be it. Otherwise, you don't need it. You can sell replica Ulafalas. I'm not sure if they do that or not. I know you can buy those, like on Amazon and stuff, but I don't know if WWE makes Ulafalas for you to wear. That would be smart, right? For them to they make masks for Lucha Libre. Why wouldn't you make Ulafalas for people to support Roman Reigns and the Bloodline? But if they were going to create a Tribal Chief Championship, it would essentially be a toy for children. And I'm not a big fan of how it would be used in story. The Ulafala does exactly what they claim this Tribal Chief Championship would do. And therefore, there's no reason for it. All right, so to continue our news and notes, we're going to discuss Dave Meltzer, who said something really ridiculous. He claims that TNA bringing in Tessa Blanchard was a favor to the WWE. He says, quote, "It's a really weird story, but it could just be a favor for WWE. I mean, the idea is, if she's in TNA for a while and there's no big backlash or anything, they could bring her into WWE because there's women in WWE who want to work with her. There may be some who don't, but I know there are some who do, and she's very controversial for all the reasons everybody knows. And it's kind of like a test thing." Meltzer, I don't think so. If somebody like Charlotte, who we're talking about here, wanted to work with Tessa Blanchard would just be brought into WWE. They don't need to use TNA as an intermediary. Oh, we're going to let TNA take all the heat. That would make no sense, because they're still going to get heat for bringing Tessa in. And to be quite honest, if this was the case, a lot of the women who have problems with Tessa Blanchard are already in WWE. Chelsea Green and Isla Dawn were two of the loudest voices, and they're both in WWE. Chelsea Green now is getting pushed. So it's an interesting bit, to think that they're going to bring in Tessa Blanchard into TNA so that she can backdoor her way into WWE or backdoor her way into NXT. That don't make sense, and that's not how businesses operate. If they wanted to bring Tessa Blanchard in, they just bring her in. They don't need to sneak her in through the back door. And yes, there was still a big issue when Tessa was brought into TNA. People complained. I did 2 or 3 videos on this thing. It was that big of a deal. People were that upset. Now, those would be people, however, who were deep into the internet lore, not average Joes. The average Joes have no idea who Tessa Blanchard even is, let alone what her history is or what she's going to be accused of. And to be quite honest, they're not going to know who Tully Blanchard is either, really. So I doubt that the issue is going to be fan reaction. Now, the reaction of the talent, because Priscilla Kelly, aka Gigi Dolan, Isla Dawn, and Chelsea Green, 3 of the women who claim that Tessa Blanchard was a bully, are currently under WWE contract. And 2 of them are, well, Isla Dawn, who the hell knows? But Gigi Dolan is on NXT, and Chelsea Green just won the Women's United States Championships. Therefore, she's getting pushed. But if WWE wanted to bring in Tessa Blanchard, they would have to take the L and just accept that Tessa is there. Much like, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn had to take the L that CM Punk was brought in. It's a business at the end of the day. It's about money, not about your personal issues that you have with people from years ago or how they rubbed a friend of yours the wrong way. So it would be an interesting test to see if WWE is willing to bring in Tessa when she's done with TNA. But the idea that WWE needs or wants TNA to take the first bite of the apple to see if she's going to act up backstage, it's like they don't need that. If they wanted to test Tessa Blanchard, they would just bring her and put her in NXT for a while and see if something happens. And then if nothing happens, it would be fine. They don't need for her to go to TNA first. I mean, do you think that they're paying TNA to do this? For the negative attention that TNA has gotten for bringing in Tessa Blanchard? No. Once you have to think about things, and to be quite honest, I know conspiracy theories are fun, but usually the truth is more boring. The truth is Tessa Blanchard already has supporters in TNA. Gail Kim being one of them. I did a video on this already. Gail Kim is one of the supporters of Tessa Blanchard. I'm pretty sure Tommy Dreamer is also one of the supporters of Tessa Blanchard from the past. It makes sense for her to make her return there because Gail Kim made excuses for her when they made her the world champion around the same time all that stuff happened. So, and Tommy Dreamer, of course, is he's not a sensitive man. He's not one that's going to play into cancel culture. Since they're important figures in TNA, she wouldn't be there without their support. She doesn't necessarily have that same level of support in WWE. So that's why she's not brought into WWE. But if Triple H decided that he was going to have Tessa Blanchard because Charlotte wants to work with her or some other woman on the roster wants to work with her, then guess what? The Isla Dawns and the Chelsea Greens and the Gigi Dolans, they're going to have to take the L and either work with her or not. Maybe you could avoid her, maybe you can't. But if WWE wanted to bring in Tessa Blanchard, they just bring her in. It's not like Triple H is above getting heat for signing talent or keeping talent. Remember, he kept Velveteen Dream on the roster for a really long time, despite the fact that there's a lot of negative attention around that guy. Same thing with somebody like Austin Theory. There's a lot of negative attention around him too, and they continue to push him and they continue to use him, at least for a little while before they started to kick him in the balls every week. So the idea that they're going to get heat and they're worried about the heat, no, forget it. They're not worried about the heat. And Meltzer is just making up shit, making up conspiracy theories. I don't understand why you people pay him to analyze pro wrestling anymore. He's no longer the sharpest tool in the shed. All right, so there's one more thing I want to discuss, but we'll talk about it when we get to Tiffany Stratton, as it has to do with Tiffany Stratton. So let's breeze our way through SmackDown. Solo Sikoa agrees to tribal combat, of course. Drew McIntyre wants to kill Solo Sikoa because Solo was the one who cost him the championship and upset his family, embarrassed him at Clash at the Castle, but says that he also was the only one who had the balls to stand up to Roman. So Solo can kind of make it up to him if he's the one that finishes Roman for good. Then Jimmy Uso attacks Drew McIntyre because Drew McIntyre attacked Jimmy last week. And then LA Knight, Apollo Crews, and Andrade attacked the Bloodline. And this led to a very long 6-man tag where the Bloodline defeated LA Knight, Apollo Crews, and Andrade. Of course they did. They fought the mid-card Avengers. Nakamura attacked LA Knight in the middle of the match. This led nowhere. This means nothing. Who cares? Alex Shelley says he wanted to handle Johnny Gargano alone and wonders if Johnny Gargano was man enough to fight his own battles. Later, Ciampa called Alex Shelley dumb, said he didn't know these guys as long as Johnny Gargano does. But Johnny says that his manhood's being tested. He's all man. He made a baby. His dream has already come true. And now he's going to go out there and prove that he can beat Alex Shelley by himself. Johnny Gargano versus Alex Shelley actually occurred on this show. It didn't aggravate me as much as I thought it would, but I didn't really care about it either. And despite the fact that both Chris Sabin and Tommaso Ciampa promised to stay back, both of them ended up coming out, and Shelley lost by distraction roll-up. Who cares? Chelsea Green cut a promo on the show, saying that it's about time for her to be in the history book, that she should have been in the history book 3 years ago, but she got fired. She should have been in the history books in 2015, but she didn't get hired. So it's well about time. Now, for those of you who don't know, Chelsea Green, of course, was released in WWE back in 2021 after a very short and uneventful run in NXT and not really doing that much on main roster WWE. And she was on Tough Enough back in 2015, I believe. I think she was on there with Patrick Clark, who would go on to be the Velveteen Dream, even though neither one of them won the show. Chelsea did not get hired at that point in time either. But Chelsea Green in 2015, which is almost 10 years ago, is not the Chelsea Green of today. I think she probably would have done better if she'd have waited a couple of years. I think the TNA run really helped her out a bit when it comes to learning who she is and what she wants to do in the wrestling business. And I definitely think she should have been around. She should not have been fired 3 years ago. I think that was very unfair. But she seemed to be one of those people that was caught up in the Vince Triple H civil war that they had going on. All right. Kevin Owens cut a promo, says that he blames Cody Rhodes, management, the referees, and everybody for his behavior. His package pile driver at the end of Saturday night's main event. Said he was screwed out of the title. He took the belt because he deserves it and won't get it back until he gets what he wants. And says that people think that he snapped, but he hasn't even snapped yet. It can get worse. Now, Saturday night's main event did 1.59 million viewers on NBC, which some people took as an L. But I said that's about fair. That sounds about what an average WWE audience is about 1.5 million viewers. So, I mean, it is what it is. Can NBC do better? Maybe. But are they airing it every week? No. It's a quarterly event. I think having 1.59 million viewers is a good starting point. It's only going to go down if Triple H continues to put matches on the show with no story. But... and what I mean by no story means I'm not saying that the matches themselves don't have storylines building up to them. I mean that there's no story within the show, promos, segments, things like that make the show feel special, in which things happen in the show, in the body of the show. Not, oh, we're going to do this thing before the show. We're going to do this thing after the show. Because this was caught up in the middle of a spot where they have the Netflix thing coming. So they want to save some stuff. But the next time Netflix will have already been on launched, and they have to actually do something for network television. So we'll be interested in what they do next time. But Kevin Owens, he has this sort of righteous indignation, which seems to be his character trait over the last 3 or 4 years. I'm very tired of Kevin Owens, but this was actually not terrible in terms of his promos. It made sense. It's a classic heel issue. I got screwed out of the title, so the title is mine, and I'm taking it and I'm going to run with it. Now, he is walking around with the Winged Eagle Championship, which I know it really tickles him, and it aggravates, old heads like myself. I'm not a fan of that belt being used or being carried by people like Kevin Owens. I also know that Kevin Owens is apparently defending this fake world title as he walks around and does house shows. I think that part's entertaining, however. I'm a big fan of the gimmick of I'm the real world champion and I'm going to defend the real world title. It's a classic heel gimmick, so I'm not too offended by all of this. They had the Grayson Waller effect, which I mostly skipped. It included Braun Strowman in a Santa Claus suit. I mean, Jesus Christ. Carmelo Hayes interrupted rather, and said that you can't humble greatness, and he wanted a rematch. He wrestles Braun Strowman, and everybody told me, oh, you got mad for no reason. Carmelo won the next match, so 50-50 booking is good, Mongo. Wrong. For starters, he didn't even win this match. He won it by count out. He didn't pin the man. He won by count out. So they 50-50 booked it in a way that still did not benefit Carmelo Hayes. So, look, this is nuts, okay? This is stupid. So Carmelo Hayes runs from Braun Strowman for the rest of the night after winning by countout. Braun Strowman then accosts the Legado del Fantasma as he tries to figure out where Carmelo has gone to, but Santos won't snitch. I'm no snitch. But Humberto is a snitch, so he tells him. And then he's continuing to chase him before he runs into Pretty Deadly. He was talking about the musical. So then he smacks posters out of their hands, and then he gets attacked by Carmelo Hayes from behind with a steel chair. So then that was that. This feud apparently is going to continue. It's not really helping Carmelo Hayes, in my opinion. It's showing personality, but I'm not sure if this is the personality you want him to show in terms of him being a cowardly heel that's running away from this gigantic Braun Strowman, which he should not be fighting Braun Strowman head up. And that's just obvious, right? But Carmelo Hayes is a dynamic performer. He's a cocky heel. He should be cheating and winning, absolutely. But he should be a lot like MVP in the early days of the MVP character, where it's all flash, very little substance, and then the substance starts to come in over time. But that was back in the day when character mattered. Today characters are just backdrops to how good can you wrestle, which I'm not a big fan of, but this is what Triple H wants, and this is apparently what everybody who is kissing Triple H on his cheeks want. And I'm just a hater. I'm an old gray beard, even though I'm not quite gray beard yet, but I'm an old man. Nobody cares what I think. Moving on, Tiffany Stratton, she gets benched by Candice LeRae, who doesn't want her at ringside, but says that she can plan the championship celebration that the two of them, that she and Nia Jax are going to have when they win the titles. And then we get Bianca and Naomi. Bianca talks about how everything has been difficult in the past, but they're not going to let that affect the tag team championships. Naomi talks about how important the tag team titles are to her. They're as important to her as they are to Jade and Bianca. Bianca tries to give Naomi one of the tag team titles, and Bianca is rejected as Naomi says that she will not touch the belt until she has earned it, which I very much appreciate. I like that. That's a very babyface thing to do, even though we all know this is probably leading into a Naomi heel turn. Naomi and Bianca defeat Nia Jax and Candice LeRae as Naomi pins Candice. At one point in this match, Nia Jax got busted open. I think it was from a ring post. And she also ate a 450, which wasn't really a 450. It was more like a 360. But it was a pretty dope spot. The match itself was fun. I really didn't hate the match. But it was in front of it was the only thing on the show that I think that really kind of had fan juice behind it. Tiffany Stratton did come ringside. Nia Jax wanted the briefcase to use it as a weapon, but Tiffany was hesitant to give it. She finally did give it, but it was too late, and it was too late to matter. But Tiffany Stratton, despite the fact that she's being booked as a sidekick, she was the main feature of a Vince Russo comment recently that I want to discuss, because there's something about it that really kind of made me raise my eyebrow. So Vince Russo says that Tiffany Stratton should wear more clothes And I was like, what? So I read, I didn't go find the video because that would have been too much work. This is Vince Russo we're talking about here. He says, bro, let's be honest. She wears less clothes out there than anybody on the roster. Way less. Way less to the fact that you're watching her matches because something's going to pop out. Bro, guys aren't going to boo that. Right there, if she really wants to get heat, the first thing she's going to do is cover that shit up. You're going to have to pay. You want to see this, man? You're going to have to pay top dollar. That's going to get heat. I'm sorry, but turning her into an OnlyFans girl on television is probably not, especially during the PG times, is probably not the best when it comes to creative ideas. Secondly, I don't think what she wears is less revealing than what all the other girls are wearing. Now, she's certainly bustier than most, and so her tops do have a knack of, hey, is something going to come loose? I mean, Charlotte also had that problem. But when it comes to her gear, I don't really see that she's wearing that much less than anybody else. I mean, she gets a lot of attention. But there's plenty of girls at NXT that dress just like this. And matter of fact, it was a meme recently about how most of the NXT girls seem to dress much like Tiffany Stratton, which of course plays into what Athena / Ember Moon said before about how NXT did a seminar on how to dress like Mandy Rose. Because all of the girls dress like Mandy Rose. But his idea that she should wear more clothes to get heat is like, no, I don't think that would work. It would just actually limit her mobility probably. I don't really see a problem with how she dresses and what her gear looks like. Again, there's plenty of girls out there who dress similar. Some wear more clothes, some wear less, but she's seemingly not in a bathing suit. She's not out there in a bikini or anything like that. So I think that he's making too much out of this. You know, he just might be looking at her and thinking that in his mind she should put on more clothes if she wants to get heat. And I'm thinking, nope, she can get heat just fine being the cocky bitch heel that she was in NXT, but they have decided that she's going to be Nia's poodle in a purse, which is ridiculous and quite stupid. Anyway, that's SmackDown. The women's tag team title match was the only thing worth watching, and if you cared to even watch this show, which you probably didn't, the Chelsea Green promo was very good. LA Knight, well, unfortunate what happened to him, but there was no top guys on this show except Solo, if you even count Solo. And they made sure that they were not going to spoil Saturday night's main event, but they completely ruined SmackDown. So then there's that. There's so many people who are running around and they're saying, well, they're taping Raws and SmackDowns because the wrestlers get to spend the holidays with their families. Wrong. Guess what? They're still going to do a holiday tour where these guys are still going to be wrestling on Christmas. That's right. WWE is going to be doing a holiday tour, but they will not be doing live Raws and live SmackDowns. What the hell is the point? I thought the point of taping these shows would be so everybody can get holidays with their families. But instead, there's going to be holiday tours anyway, which means you're going to be working anyway. Therefore, you should be wrestling live. Here's the thing. Here's the weird thing. This is crazy. They taped SmackDown. They taped it this week, but it's live next week. It's live the 2 days after Christmas. Why is it not live this week and taped 2 days after Christmas? That would make sense, right? Monday Night Raw this week is taped, but it's live on the 30th, which is 5 days after Christmas. Wouldn't, if you were going to give them the holidays off, wouldn't that Monday be taped? It doesn't make sense. What they're doing doesn't make sense. They work in the day after Christmas. And then the whole tour continues the day after Christmas. So they get every day up till Christmas off. And then they have to work right after. What was the point? The point should have been they work Christmas, or at least Christmas Eve, then Christmas Day, and then maybe a couple of days after. And then, you start your regular schedule. But nope, that's not what we're thinking about here. They're doing a holiday tour because that matters. And the idea of them having the holidays off when they don't have the holiday off, they have the Friday before the holiday off, the Monday before the holiday off, which is not the same as having the holidays off. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.